Thank you, Kristen, and thank you all for joining us today. I'm very glad to be talking with you about a project I'm very proud of. My name is Kate Howe. I'm the Managing Director of the INDY Hunger Network. And there will be 3 other speakers who are participating today. Karine, Jannetta, who is with Level Up Development, a local tech company in Indianapolis. Shellye Kennedy, who is the Food Policy and Program Coordinator for the City of Indianapolis, and Shelly Suttles with Indiana University, formerly of the City of Indianapolis, all of whom have been integral partners and collaborators in this project. So I just wanted to start with a little bit of introduction to what the INDY Hunger Network is. We are a collective impact organization, a hunger-free community organization located in Indianapolis. We work primarily in Indianapolis proper, Marion County, but we also do reach out a little bit into the surrounding counties, the donut counties around Indianapolis. We have several nonprofit organization partners who are members of the INDY Hunger Network. You can see them here. We have a Feeding America Food Bank, which is Gleaners Food Bank, an Independent Food Bank Midwest, our local senior feeding organization, SACOA and Meals on Wheels. Second Helpings does food rescue and prepares hunger relief meals for local community centers and after-school programs and other organizations. The Society of St. Vincent de Paul has the largest food pantry in the city of Indianapolis. Grace Care Center is the largest food pantry in Hamilton County, which is a neighboring county. All kinds of other organizations involved. I won't go through all of them, but I wanted you to see that we have government agencies, corporate partners, and a wide variety of nonprofits who are involved in INDY Hunger Network. And we started in 2009 in response to the Great Recession and the increased need we saw then, and we're finding the collaboration to be especially beneficial again now during another time of crisis with COVID-19. Just briefly want to tell you a little bit about some of the other things that we do before we delve into Community Compass, which is our technology solution here in Indianapolis for dealing with food access issues. So we think of our work as being divided into sort of 3 focus areas: sustainability, meaning sustaining enough food in the hunger relief system for everyone who needs it; nutrition, ensuring that the food that's provided through the hunger relief system is nutritious and healthy food; and then access, obviously, ensuring that everyone has the ability to take advantage of the programs that are available to them. So in terms of sustainability, we do a lot of research, studying, data gathering to keep an eye on what the problem is in our city. How many meals do we need? How many people are hungry? What programs are they able to access and what programs are they not accessing? We've also created a food pantry network that allows us to work closely with the pantries in our city in implementing best practices for how they provide service, and also helping them learn from each other and share information, share food and other resources to make the hunger relief system in our city stronger. In the nutrition area, where we offer Cooking Matters programming, which I'm guessing a lot of your other hunger-free communities groups do as well, teaching cooking and nutrition classes at locations across the city. We also have a program designed to rescue semi-loads of rejected produce and redirect it to hunger relief organizations, both in the city and actually around the state of Indiana with our Feeding America food banks. In terms of access, we do a lot of work trying to connect people to SNAP and WIC, and we have an active program of WIC marketing right now, where we've created an ad campaign in cooperation with our county WIC program to get more people to enroll, and we're going to be expanding that to SNAP as well in 2021. And then the project that you all are here to hear mostly about is Community Compass. And Community Compass was started really in response to a study we did that indicated that people didn't have access to the information that they needed to find the resources available in our community. So we do what we call our unmet needs study every 3 years. And in 2017, when we did that study, the results showed us that 1 out of every residents of Marion County, where Indianapolis is located, had a problem with food insecurity. And then of those people who were food insecure, 5% reported missing meals in any given week. So 5% doesn't sound like a lot, but when you actually do the math, that's 47,000 people in our city missing meals every week, at least one meal, because they couldn't afford all the food that they needed. So when we delved further and asked them, if you're not getting all the meals that you need, if you're missing meals, we asked about what resources they were using. Were they using food pantries? Were they enrolled in SNAP and WIC, et cetera? And for people who reported food insecurity that weren't using food pantries, the top explanation that they gave for why they weren't using a food pantry is that they didn't know where food pantries were, how to find them, or where they were located. And then in terms of SNAP, and also actually with WIC, the top reason for people not being enrolled is that they didn't know if they were eligible, or they thought they were not eligible. So we feel like there's a real gap in information for people not knowing how to access the programs that are available, or whether they're eligible to access them in the first place. So I'm going to turn it over here to Shellye, who will tell you a little bit about the process of developing Community Compass.
Thank you, Kate. So I guess there are the first few things I just wanted to highlight about the timeline. So the first is that, you can see here that the project took over 3 years to develop. So we can see kind of in that first picture, it really started off with construction paper, glue, markers, us sitting down and brainstorming an idea, all the way to what we see in the last picture is an app that's live on the app stores. So second, I'd also like to highlight that it was really the effort of many community partners throughout Indianapolis and Marion County, and we thank them, very much for their partnership in this effort. And then lastly, just in for the sake of full transparency, it actually cost a lot of money. I know some organizations have projects launch and, outwardly it looked like it got all done with grit and determination. And they fail to mention, that they got $1 million Bloomberg grant to execute on the project. So we didn't, unfortunately, have that wonderful pot of Bloomberg money fall in our lap, but we fought hard to kind of secure funding by a variety of different means we'll discuss today. But I just wanted to start off with that level of transparency that getting a technology in folks' hands did cost money, and we're very aware that it will continue to cost money due to the development, the maintenance, and the ongoing activities that the technology requires. And so the original idea, to give credit where credit's due, actually started with the local newspaper, INDY Star, and the hospital system, IU Health. And they really identified that child hunger was important in the city of Indianapolis, and they wanted to do something about tackling that issue. Slide, please. So in year one, I would say Kate and I were new to our positions. Kate and I both came on board. So at the time I was with the city of Indianapolis, Kate came into her director position at Indie Hunger Network. And we got invited to these conversations with the newspaper and the hospital system in terms of how to develop a technology that could be helpful to families who struggle with food insecurity. So I would say late 2016, early 2017, I was actually able to find an app developer for nonprofits online. So Caravan Studios is actually the app development arm of TechSoup, which is a popular nonprofit technology company. And they mentioned that they actually had one spot left in their Microsoft Philanthropies grant to go to a city, to be there for 2 days, and to host a design thinking session to tackle a social problem in the city. And so they gave us the opportunity to secure that last spot in the Microsoft Philanthropies grant. And they came to Indianapolis in February of 2017. And so what they did for us was that they hosted a 2-day design thinking session. And this allowed us to invite our community partners we knew were involved in the issues of food security, um, broadly and maybe perhaps more in a niche setting. So first and foremost, we had at the time a county level 211 operating. So Connect to Help 211 was obviously our partner in getting that design thinking done, knowing that they would be the data that undergirded the project to help residents navigate food insecurity. The hospital system joined us, a representative from churches and community centers across the city. We had reentry specialists. It was a real opportunity for us to kind of think broadly all together in our different areas that were impacted by food insecurity. So one important thing that Caravan Studios told us at the start of this project is they said, don't think about solutions directly, think about the problem to start with. So we spent the first day actually not brainstorming solutions, but talking about issues that Indianapolis residents had and the struggles that they had with food issues. So the problems that we decided were most important and had potential for us to tackle with technology first were the difficulty in navigating the complex hunger relief system, as Kate mentioned. You know, this came up time and time again. Second, we knew that young people, people who didn't have cooking skills, perhaps newly arrived immigrants, often said that they felt the items that they received at food pantries either weren't particularly easy to prepare or weren't culturally appropriate, and they didn't know exactly what to do with the product. And then the third problem we saw was that food pantries and food pantry volunteers had a bit of technophobia, and oftentimes they had little incentive to keep their hours of operation and their business information up to date so that residents could navigate the charitable hunger relief system. So ultimately, out of this 2 day design thinking session, we actually came up with ideas for 3 different technology solutions. First being food compass, and then we had reasonable ready recipes, and then we had pantry power to tackle these 3 issues that we decided on. So knowing that we had 3 problems and 3 potential solutions, Caravan Studios actually had a very interesting design thinking process that allowed us to open the conversation to everyone in the city of Indianapolis. So from May to June, actually there was citywide voting for the 3 different technologies. So we had posters, Caravan Studios created posters. These went up all throughout the city explaining both the problem and the proposed technology. They went out in English, Spanish, and Hakka because we do have a sizable Burmese population that are Chin and Burmese speakers. The posters went out with comment cards so people could vote on the different technology they like the most, and they could also add comments and suggestions to the comment card. And we partnered with organizations again across the city libraries, the Parks and Recreation Department, YMCA, and community centers. So really, I felt, many people in the city were able to give feedback on this process during that time. So that was a really great technique that Caravan Studios used. So ultimately, we found out that Food Compass was the winner. Most residents who completed comment cards and voting said that that was their favorite technology they found to be most helpful. But interestingly, when Caravan Studios crunched the numbers, they found that reasonable ready recipes was actually the favorite of non-English speakers. So we could see differences in, people's opinion of the different technologies. So, but ultimately, we came to the point where we said, okay, this is great. People are very much interested in Food Compass. Now, how do we pay for this to be developed? So we actually applied to a childhood food insecurity grant that the local newspaper had, and we received $50,000 of grant funding to develop the technology that year. Slide, please. Thank you. And so in 2018, the following year, so after we had the design thinking session and the voting, we actually had the opportunity through the Indianapolis Chamber of Commerce to be the premier challenge at their Civic Hack. And so Indianapolis's Civic Hack is a 24-hour design session that brings together tech professionals, computer science students to solve the city's problem, perhaps the struggle the city and the state governments are having. So this year, the challenge was food insecurity, and Indie Hunger Network in the city of Indianapolis chose to make developing this food compass technology the premier challenge in conjunction with the Indie Chamber. And really the kind of beauty of this all happening at the same time, as Kate mentioned, that 2017 unmet needs study was released, and it was a chance for us to highlight food insecurity in the city and the struggle with that in conjunction with the Civic Hack, and really get the tech community involved in the solution. So I would say originally our hope, our big hope was that we would just expose, maybe 100 to 200 tech individuals to food insecurity, and that would be enough for us. We weren't really expecting too much to come out of the project. But little did we know, it was just a really wonderful opportunity. There were excellent submissions on the part of every group that participated, whether or not they were tech professionals or just a student group. They were just extremely thoughtful submissions that really any of them could have helped residents of Indianapolis navigate the hunger relief system. But ultimately, we chose Karine and Matt and their group at Level Up Development. And that was because the technology that they developed in that 24 hours was a multi-channel platform. And we knew in our conversations with individuals throughout the city that obviously different people use technology in different ways. So Level Up developed this multi-channel technology that was a downloadable app, allowed you to also access the information on Facebook Messenger and through a website. So we thought that was really unique and really met residents where they're at, as opposed to forcing them through one technology that we developed. A slide, please. So in year three, we had our $50,000 that we were very proud of. And we had, a great design from Level Up Development. The only problem is those two things didn't match up particularly well. Developing a real robust app with professional app development technology firm is pretty expensive, well beyond the $50,000 that we had. So we knew that, Level Up told us for that price, we could have created a static app that the city itself would have to maintain. The city's IT department felt that, they had been given a variety of different apps residents thought would be helpful to the city, but often ultimately it was difficult for the city's IT department to maintain a technology that they didn't themselves develop. So we knew that we would have to secure additional funding to have long-term maintenance of the app with a tech firm as opposed to in the city's IT department. So we did have the opportunity to pitch the idea and a potential funding to the Indianapolis Bond Bank. And so this is the entity that issues municipal bonds in the country. And with a portion of the revenue that they receive from issuing municipal bonds, they support community projects. So they agreed to support Community Compass for 2 years. For the first year, they agreed to give us $60,000 for the development of the app. And so this was important in working with Level Up. They were very gracious with us and actually decided to let us spread the cost of development over the course of 2 years. So we wouldn't have to pay that big upfront fee, but we could kind of get our ducks in the row in the course of 2 years with funding. So that is something that really got us through that hurdle of, you know, being able to afford, a technology that anybody else who's using an app would be um, allowed to have. So we ultimately moved forward with the technology's development. We created a core team, and this included the county level 211 that was in existence at the time because we knew we would need them as the primary data set. We also partnered with the University of Arkansas's Chris Trudeau on plain language consultations. So whatever was developed in the app would actually be at a fourth grade reading level. It would not be burdensome or difficult to read. So that was something we were also very mindful of in the development. And at the same time, we were working with a long-term Indie Hunger Network partner called Will Van Riper on branding. And so this is kind of this conversation around branding is when the name changed from Food Compass to Community Compass. And this happened because we knew that there would be a future for the technology if it was successful. And we didn't want to keep ourselves narrow on the topic of food. And we knew that there would be potential in the future to expand the project to encompass other areas of human services, such as housing or reentry. So we worked with CVR to have that name change. And so beyond branding, we also knew that we'd need a marketing budget. You know, the best advice we got was that you can create the best technology in the world. If nobody knows about it, it's all for naught. So CVR put together a proposed budget for us around $150,000, $160,000 to market and promote the technology once it was developed. And so in the summer of 2019, an interesting opportunity came up. The city was actually owed back taxes from the state. So they had a chunk of money that they could use to support projects. And so there was the opportunity to fund community projects. And particularly, there was so many food projects that we were working on in the city at that time. We asked to have some of that returned tax revenue to pay for the marketing and promotion of the project. At the time, I would say I was unfamiliar with kind of politics, and it was an election year. So really people came out of the woodwork saying that they had never heard of the project. They had never heard that there was 2 months of voting in the summer of 2017, and they didn't have that opportunity to give their feedback. Some people even asked, oh, why can't people just Google when a food pantry is open? Why do they need some kind of special technology to figure it out? It should be easy. Google has got it covered. And then, I would say the most difficult thing was that a lot of folks came out to that city council meeting for funding and remonstrated against the project, saying that they felt that never heard of it. It was a shock to them. It was a surprise, and they didn't want the funding to go towards that. So luckily we got past that hurdle of funding, and the project's marketing and promotion budget was funded. And so we were able to move forward with obviously creating billboards, creating radio advertisements, doing all the thing. Any other technology that would go to any other household is able to see that product out, understand how to get access to that product. So we were very proud of that effort. And so ultimately, we charged ahead with the development. We conducted focus groups to solicit feedback from community. We had the app testing opportunity with a wonderful community partner, Circles INDY, and they gave us a lot of great feedback on design, content, and features that they felt that they would be helpful for our residents looking to navigate the complexities of the hunger relief system. A slide, please. So finally, after 3 years, a little over 3 years, we had an end product that was ready for release. And so January, we had a conversation with our community partners, because ultimately during this entire time, we were building the project for really two audiences. So it was the same technology, but we knew that residents would probably use the technology very differently than social service providers who would be helping their clients navigate hunger relief space. So we invited all of these community partners together to download the technology, to ask questions, to partner with us on the marketing and promotion effort. And so after that month, we were able to release the technology to the public in February of 2020. So it was kicked off by Karine, Kate, Mulele, and Mayor Hogsett. And so it's been very exciting to know that the product is in people's hands, especially given this year, this very difficult year we're having, 2020. So we're excited. And I'll pass it to Karine next.
Thanks, Shelley. Hi, everyone. I'm Karine Jannetta with Level Up Development. It's a pleasure to be on this panel today. Thank you for joining us and learning more about the Community Compass and the effort that everyone on this panel and many more community members have been part of over the last few years. So I wanted to kind of dive into the app a little bit more and give you more contextual information as to what it can provide the community and how we've structured it, and kind of just a better insight into what we built together. So the Community Compass leverages the Robin platform that was built by Level Up Development to offer a series of cloud microservices, such as location-based services, things that leverage your phone's GPS unit, things like that, multi-channel chatbot, content management system, etc. This allows for easy access to information that is relevant to the user when they're looking for it and based on where they are and when it is. So it really provides that that personalized and real-time experience. We also have Shellye, our chatbot. So you all met the real Shellye, who may have or may have not been the inspiration for the name of our chatbot. But Shellye, our chatbot, can also take you through screening questions to help you identify if you qualify for WIC or SNAP benefits. And we'll dive more into everything that Shellye, the chatbot, can do in a little bit later in the slides coming up. But you can also promote specific events in the area through the app. So we'll talk more about the events and what we are promoting within the app currently. specifically based around, health and nutrition services, and some other things that we'll talk more about here in a second. Another thing that's kind of cool is, you can see on that screenshot, you have these vignettes on the top. Those vignettes allow you to have promotional content that can be either seasonal or updated whenever. You can see right now in the screenshot, we have a big resource for COVID, any COVID-19 related restrictions. So it allowed us to really be flexible into the content and have an up-to-date information in the application. So that's from a very high level. We're going to continue as we go to the next slide. We're going to start diving into some of these additional functionality. So right here, the first thing that we're going to talk about is actually the latest release that we upgraded just a few months ago in Community Compass, is the ability to show the content in Spanish and English. When we first released in February, the only available language was English. And one of the early feedback that we started getting was, the importance of having that content available in Spanish. So there's a couple of things that the app will do. It will automatically recognize what language your phone is set up to. So if your phone is set up to Spanish, when you're in the app, it will just go in Spanish automatically. But in addition to that automatic kind of language detection, we added also the ability to just easily swap within the app. On that top right corner, you can just tap if you want to swap from English to Spanish. So it just allows a more manual and more immediate update of the content. So currently, the only languages that are supported today are English and Spanish. And again, that was part of the latest release. I know Shellye already mentioned our group feedback session, our user groups. Throughout the Spanish release, we had a lot of help from many members of our community, of the Hispanic community, to help us with our content. And we went through many rounds and iterations of the translated content. So, hopefully we're where we need to be now. But it was definitely a sizable effort. And something to just keep in mind, the focus group and the feedback groups that we had just had a huge impact on those iterations. So as we go to the next slide, we will look at another feature that was also released post-February, but pre-Spanish. So this was a midsummer release. So again, that's the cool thing with these, applications releases, that you can keep iterating and release new features pretty regularly. So it's kind of fun. And again, base it on the feedback that you get from the community. So one thing that we got from our early feedback groups, back in November of last year, before we were even publicly released, was the need to be able to add filters when I look for specific resources. And so these screens kind of show you how that works. And so in this example, we are looking for places where you can get free groceries. So may it be food pantry, food banks, however you want to call those. So we're in that category, and we have the ability to add filters in our header section, and we can put headers from specific days that the place are open. Like if I want open today, or if I want open this weekend, or whatever I'm looking for, you can just kind of scroll and pick your day that you're planning on going for that. Another one is the zip code. So in the zip code, if you want to search for a specific zip code, you can certainly do that. In that zip code filter section, we do call out to make sure to verify and validate any kind of eligibility requirements under the resource details, and we'll look at those here in a little bit. And then lastly, the last filter you can also add is any distance from where you are. So let's say that you're, walking, you don't have a car, you're going to need to find something that's open today, right now, and you may not want to walk more than a mile. So you may want to limit your radius to a 1 mile search and only display those results. So just a lot of added filtering options to tailor those results more precisely to the needs of the user, of the end user, the person that has it in their hands. So those again were released early summer, and this had been a feature that had been requested by multiple user feedback sessions. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide so that we can look at a little bit more of those details that we provide about those locations. So over here, when you tap any of the cards on your homepage where you had like free groceries, places to eat, or WIC resources or SNAP resources, any of those main category cards will take you to this map view that you see. And to swap categories, you can either go back home, or you can just tap in that header in the category name. You can just tap here and swap over in that little section. When you do that, it will just reload the map and refresh your results to the appropriate category that you're searching for. You can then access the details of a location by either tapping on a little pin on this map, or by clicking on the list, the cards in the list. So once you do that, you will get to a detail view, which is kind of that middle screen. And then if you scroll down to get more information, the last screen on your right. So over here, you'll find information like contact information, address, phone numbers, hours, eligibility, intake protocol, what to bring, all of that information. The blue links are definitely tappable, so you can just tap to call, and it will just use your native phone calling function to just call the location. Tapping the directions, same thing, it's just going to leverage your native OS map application. So if you're on an Android device, it will kick you to your Google Maps. If you're on an iOS phone, then it will kick you to your maps or whatever your default map application is set for. Let me make sure I'm not forgetting anything here. Oh, when the results load on your map, provided that you've authorized the application to use your location services, it will default to results around you. However, you can still navigate and move the map around to kind of explore other areas, and other resources in other areas of the city. So the map is 100% interactive. You can zoom in, zoom out, move around, but it will default to where you are. So that's kind of how that just works. Pretty standard for any kind of map application there. Let's see. Perfect. So on that detail screen, there's another link that you could click, which was the feedback link. So feedback, and there's two ways of getting here. You can go from the bottom navigation, you can go to the feedback area. If you have just any kind of general feedback, maybe you want to add a resource to the app, maybe you had a technical issue, whatever it might be. But if you're reporting an issue about a specific location and you hit the feedback button from the feedback link from a location details, it will pre-populate. And so that's the screenshot on your right. It will pre-populate the information of that location so that you don't lose context. So if you want to let us know, hey, this is the wrong phone number, or they've changed their hours, or what have you, that way we capture that location, and then you can just add your comment and send it out. So one of the main challenges that we realized very quickly when we started investigating food banks and just helping the community was to have accurate information about our food pantries and up-to-date information. So having this feedback feature really helps the managing organization for the app to make sure that the content that we provide is accurate and up to date. So every entry that is sent through the application can be is directed to a specific inbox, but it's also available through the web admin portal. So all of those feedback that are submitted through the application are all available to the organizations that administers this this product. I think that's probably it on the feedback kit. If we want to go to the next slide, perfect. So now we're going to look at another area in the application, and this is the events. So in this listing of events, again, everything is available in English or Spanish. That's all been translated as well. The application supports a Google Calendar integration for easy management of those events. And then we display them in the app in just kind of a listing category, very similar to other applications if you use like events apps. And it kind of groups them with like today, this week, later this month, and then everything later after that. As for submitting other events, as you can see on the slides, we do make that available for other community partners to send us new events that are happening and keep that as up to date as possible. The events have to be free to be posted through the application. That's something that we want to make sure that we make it available for everyone. And they have to be open to the public. So just a couple, caveats there. Every event that you find through the app are going to be, open to the public, free, and currently everything is health or nutrition related. As we continue to grow and go through additional services, that spectrum may grow, but for right now, this is the content that you will find here. Very similar to everything else in the app, you have links in those calendar events. You also have directions when they're hosted in the physical world, and any other information related to a specific event. So now we're going to dive a little bit more into our wonderful Shelly Bot. So the Shelly Bot is available through the application itself. So you can see that bottom navigation, you have a little chatbot icon. So it is available in the app. It is also available, and we'll see a couple more screenshots later via other channels. So we'll talk about those here in a minute. But to start with, we wanted to make sure that as we completed the translation of the application to Spanish to support both English and Spanish, we also made those updates to the chatbot so that it could recognize languages as well. So the first thing that we added to the opening, welcoming conversation of Shellye is to add the opportunity to swap English to Spanish. So the last option in your opening message is, tap 4 to switch to Espanol or English on the other one. So that is available in the chatbot as well. When you start the conversation, to restart the conversation, there's a quick shortcut in the bot. You can hit the star key and it always will give you back that initial prompt. So if you needed to switch back to English for whatever reason, you can always get back to that original prompt and change categories or change languages from that initial message. If we go to the next screen, oh, we're already there. Is that the one? Yes, we're there. So the next one is the snap and snap screening. So we have two types of available screenings for Marion County here. We have the SNAP and the WIC, which are federal nutrition programs. These are just initial eligibility screenings. So what we do through those is we have the list of questions that we gathered from those community partners. And as you start answering these prompts, it will give you at the very end, the best output that matches your circumstances or your situation. So once if we assess that you could qualify for the WIC or SNAP benefits, we will provide the link to the actual formal government application to their website. We'll also provide a phone number if you need to make an appointment, and any other related information such as senior benefits like those offered through SACOA or whatever other program that we can throw in there. We'll also provide that information based on your responses. So these are just little snippets of example of that conversation. We omitted a lot of the meat of the questions that you have to go through. but we all hope that you'll download a copy of the app after this and that you'll play with it yourself and you can all tell us about it. So that is about it on the screening questionnaires. The next one that we have is, as we mentioned earlier, Shellye can, give you information about everything that's available in the app. So whether it's those screening questionnaires, or it is, finding hot meal sites or food pantries. So you can still do all that through the chatbot. And again, we wanted to make sure that we were not limiting the information to any specific technology. So I know Kate already talked about that initially, but we'll talk more about it now and in the next slide. We wanted to make sure that this information was available, whether I have a smartphone with a map application and location and a data plan and all that stuff. We want to make sure that this information can be communicated via a conversation. So all of these resources that we saw in the fancy views are still available over here in just plain text. So if you're looking in this example for a place to eat, Shelley is going to take you down this script of trying to figure out where you are so that we can find resources that are near you. And we're going to display the results in that order of proximity. Based on the address that you're going to provide within this conversation. So the cool thing is that you can put whatever address you want, and we're going to show you whatever is closest. Now, something to keep in mind today, this application only supports Indianapolis, Marion County, Indiana. So even for people that are, in northern Indiana, that really would not be very relevant for them today. I'm not going to steal anybody's thunder about the future of the application. So I'll shut up about that for now. But there's just something to keep in mind for now. So right now, only Marion County, Indianapolis, so resources will be given to you based on your proximity. But when you select an option, it can take you all the way down to a turn-by-turn direction that will still be given to you, in that simple text format. But it will tell you, you're going to go X amount of distance this way on this street, and so on and so forth. So you get the full turn-by-turn in a text format. So that's the cool thing. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide, Kate, because that is the one that really, I think, this is what won, I think, for level of development. That's what won the Civic Hack a couple of years ago, was that multi-channel aspect of things and not limiting access to information based on specific technologies. And what we mean by that is that this fancy chatbot Shellye is available through your SMS text message. So you can text this phone number right now and you'll go ahead and you'll start a conversation with Shellye. So that all of those information resources, turn by turn, hours, contacts, events, all of that is still available through this. The eligibility, all of that also still available just through regular SMS text messages. So it was very important for us to provide a solution that was, available to everyone, as many humans that we possibly can. Like without, if you don't have the latest smartphone or the latest great plan, you can't. Sorry for you. No, that's not at all what we're trying to do here. We want to make it available to everyone. So there you have it. That is what was done. Another cool thing is Facebook Messenger also has that. And there it is. We haven't seen the most usage out of that one, to be quite honest, but I'll definitely let, I forget who I handed it off to, Kate. Do I hand it off back to you?
I will take it over from here.
Oh, wonderful. Thanks, Lily. Well, thanks, everybody.
So I'm Malele Kennedy. I'm the Food Policy and Program Coordinator for the City of Indianapolis. I did take this position over from Shellye, who is now at Indiana University. So we kind of had this seamless transition while we were developing Community Compass, and we were both able to work on this project in different facets throughout development. And what I really wanted to do is take a minute to really hone in on the aspects of what was needed to really make this a success. Karine has done a great job going through all of the great features that Community Compass has. And those of us that were on this development team really knew that we were coming up with something great. But one of the things we wanted to do is make sure, like Shellye mentioned, that we had community buy-in for this project, and that there was really a good level of understanding of what was needed, and to ensure that we were meeting the needs of the community, of the residents. And so we did have product beta testing that was done with Circles INDY, and Circles is an organization that focuses on the transition of residents from using public assistance programs to being more self-sufficient. And so this was a great group to be able to do this beta testing. So we had 48 testers. These are all people that had lived experience. They're very familiar with food pantries and food resources in their communities. And so they had firsthand knowledge of what was really going to be worthwhile to have in this platform. We also, I think it was mentioned that we utilized a plain language expert to ensure that the language that we were using was really matched up with what residents in the community were used to hearing in reference to food resources, and that we were really putting things at a level for where people of all different demographics, of all different ethnicities would be able to utilize this information. So we had multiple focus groups from November through January, and these testers at each session would be able to come back and give us information on what we needed to change. And we had lots of feedback from those testing opportunities. And Level Up did an amazing job of taking that feedback, putting it right back into the app, into the platform, and working through those ideas, and then putting it back out there, pushing another a beta testing session, and being able to do this multiple times in a really short amount of time. This was done ending in January for our first launch. And then we did have additional focus groups specifically when we were doing our Spanish version. And we worked with the Immigrant Welcome Center here in Indianapolis. And these are natural helpers, people that work with immigrant populations within these communities, and really had a good understanding of what we needed to make changes about in our platform to be able to have a seamless transition to the Spanish version. Next up, I want to talk a little bit about funding. Again, one of the ways that we honed in on ensuring that this project would be successful is having that funding streams and multiple funding streams lined up along the way. So the INDY STAR grant was the first level of funding just at the beginning stages, and it was $50,000 that went towards the initial development. We then had an additional $60,000 in funding from the bond bank that we mentioned before, and the $150,000 from the city of Indianapolis through some tax incentives. And so that gave us around $260,000 to be able to use in 2019 towards this initial launch. While that was all going on, I work out of the Office of Public Health and Safety, and we were already thinking about year two. So you kind of have to really think ahead to what you want to do next. And so we were already thinking in 2019 about the next funding opportunities. And so we were able to fund through the bond bank and the Office of Public Health and Safety an additional just right around $95,000 in 2020 for some of these additional features that you're hearing about. And as those additional features were coming out, we were already thinking ahead to 2021. And so it's really about staying in front of that funding, these funding streams, and thinking ahead. And so now we have the opportunity that's pending for additional corporate and philanthropic funding through additional grants. That's really going to allow us to move forward with all of those features that were noted that we should do to be able to keep up with the needs of the community. On the next slide, we have information about what we were able to do with that funding. And it really was being able to provide these value added features, like the filtering that allows for people to really hone in on those specific areas where they're at. Where they might need public transportation, or they might need to go during a specific time of day to receive meals. They might need to be, have specific services like possibly a translator, and so having that filtering was really valuable to us. And that provided us with one capability that we knew that we would need from feedback. The other was the need for additional feedback. So even after we had our first beta testing, we knew that we would continue to get feedback from the public and from each other, and what we could do to continue to improve Community Compass. And so being able to provide that feedback about a site and maybe what the hours were for that site, or provide feedback about other locations in the area. Maybe using Community Compass, it made someone think of something else that they were doing that they wanted to share information on. And so having that was really key, having a place for that feedback. And then we had future plans. So we knew that we had this current feedback, and that we had other things that we wanted to do coming up. Now we're already thinking ahead about how do we expand this statewide. Currently, it's just in Indianapolis and Marion County, but we know that if this is being utilized here, this could be utilized in many other cities across the state, or the state itself utilizing this along with a 211 platform. We know that we need additional opportunities for accessibility, voice to text, a web platform. So this is all based on using the utilization of a smartphone, but maybe it would be good to be able to have a web page where, let's say, people in the medical field that are in a clinic would be able to look up information right there for a patient or a family that was in their facility. We know we want in-app surveys. One of the things that we keep talking about is just how do we continue to get feedback from the community? So that survey allows us to do that. And then do we expand to additional items such as housing and energy assistance? And that's really what's behind the name Community Compass, is being able to encompass all of those items in the future. And I'll take this back to Kate, and she can wrap up a little bit about our app and where you can find it.
Thanks, Malele. We're running short on time, so I want to just encourage people, if they have questions, to please feel free to unmute yourselves or to type them in. If you want to download the app, you can find it in the App Store or Google Play, so please take a look there. Just briefly wanted to share that we've marketed this app in a lot of different ways, through word of mouth, from people using food assistance to flyers, put in pantry boxes, to billboards, radio ads, and lots of other channels. And I'm going to leave this up for a second so you can see some of our usage data. About 11,000 users of the app so far. And lastly, you can find all kinds of more information on our website at indyhunger.org/compass. So in the last couple of minutes, I'd love to hear if there are any questions we can answer.
Kate, I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about sort of how success looks beyond numbers in your community.
Yeah, I mean, our goal at Indie Hunger Network is to close the meal gap. So to make sure that everybody, we know we can't solve everyone's economic problems with a hunger relief program, but making sure that people aren't missing meals and are accessing all the programs that are available to them. So I mentioned early on that we measure the meal gap every 3 years. What we want to see is that meal gap get smaller and smaller. And of course, COVID has not helped the meal gap. But we're looking to see if people are, fewer people are missing meals over the long term. That's the real success.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for your expertise today. As questions continue to come up for folks or ideas, please utilize the Q&A and chat function in Whova. You can access it at any time by clicking View Session from the agenda, and we'll hope that our panelists here today also check in there so that they can provide you some answers in that resource. Coming up next today is a panel that showcases how some hunger-free communities have responded during COVID, and we're looking forward to seeing you all there. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.